This week's episode of Sounds Good with Brandon Harvey is brought to you by the Gradient Podcast Network. Sounds Good is one of the launch shows of the Gradient Podcast Network. Check out their other podcasts like In Case You Missed It, Animalators, and It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's a Podcast at Gradient.is. That's Gradient.is. Hey everyone, Brandon Harvey here. Welcome to this week's episode of Sounds Good. I'm on the road right now. I'm in Texas. I've got a few photo shoots. I'm doing a few interviews live and in person in Texas, which is really fun. And of course, I'm checking out South by Southwest, which means I'm not in the studio and audio quality may not be as amazing as usual. Sorry about that. I'm actually crashing at a friend's house right now and I'm recording this via Skype and a borrowed microphone, and there's like tape wrapped all around it. And I'm even in a bit of a noisy neighborhood. So the audio may not be amazing, but this week is going to be amazing because I'm talking with Britt Nilsson, whose name you may recognize from ABC's The Bachelor. She got a handful of roses, cried a little bit, and even got invited back for a season of The Bachelorette. And if you don't watch The Bachelor, like me, totally stick around. Britt has this incredible story of going through the craziness of the reality TV world and coming out so much stronger on the other side. So let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so I'm here with Britt Nilsson. Britt's right here, and we're talking over Skype, and this is so much fun. We've just been giggling for a few minutes before the show even started.
I know, I was like, are we allowed to tell everyone that we've just been having like a great time already? Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing. I think this is a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you. So, Britt, you and I just met kind of randomly. We were both on a trip to Israel together.
Yes. Yeah, it was beautiful, but yes, supremely random. Like, the craziest way you can meet someone. And the best, I think. Yeah,
I absolutely love it. And I was, so I'll admit this from the beginning. I don't think I've ever watched The Bachelor or The Bachelorette.
How dare you?
I know. Me and
that's
most.
Totally fine.
Yeah. So I had never seen the show, but I also was like aware of you. I knew who you were. I had friends who had like talked about you. They're like, okay, there's this girl Britt. She's on The Bachelor. The Bachelor is whatever, but Britt is like that's kind of how they.
You know what's funny is you can totally say that to me because that's kind of like even before I went on the show, like I would watch the show and I wouldn't tell anyone I watched it. I was like a closet fan. Like I literally would, you know what I mean? It was like a guilty pleasure and I wouldn't tell anyone and I was like embarrassed. So number one, it's okay that you haven't seen it. Number two, it's okay that your friends are kind of like the shows, whatever. Because, you know, I mean, reality TV is reality TV, and it's kind of an adventurous social experiment. But yeah, it's completely bizarre. Bizarre.
Yeah, that's funny. And okay, so break this down for me then. Like, how did you get into the world of reality TV? Because maybe know other people who've done reality TV, but probably not. I don't think so.
Not to my knowledge. Yeah, so obviously, I mean, it wasn't like, you know, I wasn't in kindergarten like, what do you want to be, Britt, when you grow up? I want to be on reality TV. And I want to like have my heart broken in front of millions of people. That's what I want, you know. I kind of am a person that kind of feels their way through life. And you know what I mean? I'm like, I feel like this is a yes. This is an adventure I feel like drawn towards. Or this is something that I'm gravitating towards for whatever reason. Or this feels heavy or darker. I don't want to go that way, whatever. So basically what happened is, it's funny that we kind of started out talking this way. I used to watch the show and not tell people. And there was this one really crazy episode, and I'm a verbal processor, which I'm sure you'll get to know by the end of this. But,
I love that. I totally am too.
Yeah, I love it. I know. I think that's why we get along. So anyway, so I really want to process this show that I just watched. And so I'm talking to a girlfriend at my job. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did you see this? And we start talking about it. And I'm like, I'm embarrassed I watch it. You're embarrassed you watch it. It's silly, whatever, but let's move on. And halfway through the conversation, she just goes, and she's a dear friend of mine. She just goes, Britt, I really feel like you're supposed to do this show. And something inside of me, I was like, you're right. And I just knew that she was right, which is totally crazy, right? Like that's completely bonkers.
Totally crazy.
It's like, what the heck? We're literally talking about how crazy it is. And then she's like, you have to do it. I was like, I know. So long story short, I basically film, you send in this little video and like I have such a tiny apartment. I don't even have a blank wall. So I literally put a towel over the door in my bathroom. I have my roommate tape it on her phone. I send it to ABC and it was just kind of one of these things where I was like, okay, if I make it to the next round, I'll keep going. If not, maybe the universe is saving me from the craziest thing ever. So I was just totally okay either way. And I was like, ah. So it just keeps happening. The castings get more and more intense. It's like, by the end, they're like drawing your blood, you pee in a cup. They're calling everyone you've ever known. You're doing psych tests that are like so in depth. They know way more about me than I ever have known about myself. Like, crazy. And then you finally, I remember I just got the call and they're like, so you're going to do the show and show up this place this time with, every type of clothing for every type of scenario. And you have no idea what you're getting into. We'll see you, on X date. And I was just like, oh, okay.
That's ridiculous.
Insane. Totally insane. So yeah, it wasn't like a plan, but it just felt right and kept feeling right. And, I would there was kind of this thing where I was like, okay, if I'm not supposed to do this, take this from me. And I'm okay with that. But it all worked out. So
it just kept on working. And I love that it was just very like low key. It's like, okay, low production video, kind of sending it down on a whim. Like
no idea.
Because I'm sure that there's people who have gone in with like a big, like they've done like a big budget movie. They've like gotten attention, sent it in. Like I know people do that on Survivor a lot to try to get on. And you just like show up and it's like, it was like as if it was meant to be.
I was going to say there was almost this part of me where I was like, you know what, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen because it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And not because I'm forcing it or because I said it in the exact right way or I answered the question so eloquently that they're going to be blown away by my answer. It was more like either this is supposed to happen in my life or it's not. And, whatever. So I guess it was.
That's fascinating. Have you ever taken that approach to anything else in your life? Or was this kind of like a one-off? What was that like?
I would say I take that approach to every single thing in my life.
I love that.
I think for me, I can be an overanalyzer and I can get really in my head. And I don't think that's my best space to live in. And so for me to like, you know what I mean? You can weigh options forever. And for me, it's like, I just get a gut feeling. I'm like, how does my spirit feel though? Like what that to me feels like the truest truth because I can think one thing, then think something completely different 2 seconds later. And it's like, okay, I just got to like get that out of my head. And like, what do I feel? What feels right and true and like safe to me, whatever. And I was just like, okay, this is an adventure. Here we go.
I love that. I think that's a great approach. I think I kind of do the same thing. So I'm in Austin, Texas right now.
Yeah.
I'm in town. There's like a poster that says Texas behind me.
I was going to say, I had no idea that's where you're at. I'm looking at a giant banner that says Texas right behind his head, like bigger than his body. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude.
And, okay. So, and I'm here for South by Southwest and I didn't have a game plan at all. I was just like, I'm going to show up and,
I love that.
And I showed up and things just keep on happening just because like I just keep on like getting meetings with people or like getting invited to like parties or events. I don't know. I just think that magical things happen when you just like show up and like once you like you take that first step, that's like half of the process. That's the hardest part really.
Right. And it's going into it with an openness and kind of like just an expectation that like, okay, I'm here and I'm expecting that good things will happen. And I'm just open to it. And I just believe I'm here for a reason. And so let's go. And the worst that can happen is I have a terrible time.
Yeah.
And so what? Okay. And I was just kind of like, maybe it's terrible, but it's still an experience and you'll live once. So
yeah. Okay. And
I love it. All right, cool. We're going to like conquer the world together, I feel like.
I love it. This is so good. Okay. So you take that step, you take that leap, and worst case scenario is the worst. Best case scenario is the best. Was The Bachelor the best or the worst? Be honest.
What? It was absolutely both. It was absolutely both. I feel like so you didn't watch the show, so I'll give you like kind of the Cliff's notes to what happened.
Do. Thank you.
So I show up and, I'm super excited. I don't know if you can tell I'm very excitable and I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. This is crazy. So I get there. I'm like so nervous. But then I walk in, it's really fun. Like there's this thing called like the first impression rose, and I like got it, and I was like, cool. So everything's working out. I'm like, okay, I am supposed to be here. It's working. Like it's good. And actually, like it's interesting. So the good part about it is you get to go on amazing dates, like amazing. We're like get in a jet plane in wedding dresses and touchdown in San Francisco, and they're like, okay, you're going to do like a mud run in a wedding dress, like crazy stuff, like so fun. Or like, like Jimmy Kimmel sets up this obstacle course where we're like literally chasing pigs and like milking cows and like all this, or like, what else do we do? Like singing on stage in front of like a bunch of people, like at a country concert, or like going in a hot air balloon, just crazy thing. This is not stuff I'm doing in my normal life. And so that was really fun. Getting along with the women was really fun. Like I have girlfriends that I will keep in my life for the rest of my life. Like I love them. So those are the really fun things. It's also fun to be open and let your heart go and be vulnerable. Like that to me, that's like a joy in my life, is just like getting into the real stuff, like letting yourself be exposed is also.
You're great at like just being vulnerable, going out there.
Thanks. And the thing is, that's really good. And then it also opens you up a lot. And so the experience was really fun while we were filming. It's about 2.5 months of filming. Where you have no friends, no family, nothing, like you're completely, and it's actually beautiful. No cell phone, no email, like really nice. And it feels like summer camp on crack. And so it's really fun and you get to know these women really well, I thought. And so I had a really fun time. And then right at the end, as I left, it was kind of made known to me that people were saying things about me and it wasn't really clear what was going on. I was very confused because you have to realize, like, we're eating every meal together. I'm sitting on these women's laps. We're sleeping in the same bed. We're like best friends. And I don't have any beef with anybody. We're totally vibing the entire time. And so at the very end, I kind of hear from The Bachelor that these women have been kind of throwing me under the bus in some way, but it's not clear. And I was just like completely distraught, completely confused. And then I go home. And so I remember I flew home and I was like, Mom and Dad, this season is going to be so different than all the other ones. There's going to be no drama. We all got along so well. It's like so nice. And I was like, but it did get a little weird at the end. But, I'm not really sure. I'll figure out when I watch it. Because that's another thing. I don't know if people know. We don't watch it until we're watching it with millions of people.
Okay, so you have no idea what's happening.
So in my mind, I've been really good friends with these women. I've had a great time and I got along with The Bachelor like really well. Things were great until like literally the last 2 or 3 days. I was like, those were kind of rough. I like leave crying and they played that 1 billion times. So the world's probably seen that 8,000 times. But watching it back, it became, I would say, probably the lowest point in my life,
Wow.
I think. So it went from like this amazing adventure that was really fun and totally, challenging, but completely enjoyable. And I felt very happy and present and alive and like just I was being myself. And I don't know, it just felt like a very positive experience. And then watching it back was absolutely devastating. I'll give you like a couple examples. Basically, what went on was just pretty severe like bullying, which I've never really been a part of. I went to a very tiny school and we were all friends. It was kindergarten to 12th grade. So I'd never really experienced just meanness or being misunderstood. That just hadn't really been like a prevalent factor in my life. So it was very new to me. Now I'm grateful for it, but it was a rude awakening. So I would be, an example would be, okay, I love children. Like World Vision is my jam. I've tutored children. I was a nanny for years. Like I sponsor kids. It's one of the joys of my life is being around children. And I was very expressive about that the whole time. And I remember, so I'm on a date. It's called a one-on-one, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a one-on-one date.
I just want to stop you real quick and say that this is so fascinating to me. Like, I kind of want to go back and watch it knowing all of this.
You guys should watch it. It'll blow your mind. It's an insane show. It's fun. The thing is, you might get hooked. Like, you don't think you will, and then you will. It's crazy.
I believe it. Anyway, continue. You're on a one-on-one.
So I'm on a one-on-one. Yeah. And, the Bachelor, Chris, asked me, he's like, do you want kids? Or how many kids do you want? And I was like, completely, genuinely, like answering, I want a bunch of kids. I love kids, which I do. Every one of my friends knows it. My family knows. It's just, that's never been a question. I'm like, I love children. And I go, I want a lot of kids. And so to me, I'm thinking when I watch this, it's going to have the twinkly happy music because we're on a twinkly happy date and it's going to be romantic, and because that's how it felt and it was great. And then when I'm watching it, it's instead of that, it's they're showing the women like in the house without me, and they're all saying, Britt told me she hates kids. She never wants to have kids. And then it cuts to me saying, I want to have a lot of kids. I love kids. But they're playing like the doom villain music over me saying that. And I was like, I mean, and it sounds funny now, but when it's you, it is so completely devastating because, and this happened many times in different scenarios. And it was just kind of like, I remember when I signed the contract, they say, we can, defame you, edit things however we want. We can, basically whatever you do, we will show. So, and, I signed off on it because I was like, I'm going to do this with integrity. I have no worries about it at all. But you don't think other people can narrate you in a way that is false. And it was just mind blowing to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm watching at the same time as millions and millions of people are watching. And I look like I'm a liar. And I look like I'm manipulating someone, which is so far from my heart. And yes, it's a silly show, but when it's you, it is such, just viscerally, my like body was nauseous. Like I was overcome with just like pain. And also I'm friends with these women. Yeah. I thought, which was another whole, it just very confusing time for me. There were just a lot of moments like that. They can take a conversation that you're having with someone and someone else is having a conversation, they can add those two together to make it look like two different parties are having a conversation that never even met. I mean, it's total. And I understand it, and I knew what I was getting into in some measure, but you just don't have an awareness of the emotional toll that it takes to be misunderstood. And I remember I would wake up every morning like, I'm not a liar, like literally having these dreams of wanting to defend myself or like tell people that I'm an honest person or that I'm not these things that were being said about me. And, social media tore me to shreds.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I would imagine like just that's not something that the average person ever has to deal with. I think that most people at some point do experience some level of that, but I mean, you experienced the world turning on you for essentially a thing that you didn't do. Like what does that feel like?
Really fun, man. No, awful. Awful. You should try it. No, honestly, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I truly wouldn't. I just remember there were days, and as this is playing out, I would say the first, couple episodes are really, you kind of get a sense of who I am. And I felt like, okay, yeah, this is fun. How crazy that we're watching this on TV. I've never been on TV before. And it was just kind of this wild thing. And
who are you watching it with when you were watching it?
My roommate. I would just watch it with my roommate, or like some of my girlfriends from my old job. I didn't even have a TV, so we would like watch it online. And, it was really fun and just kind of this like silly experience. And then it started getting, to where I would be watching people that I just thought I was friends with saying very cruel things about me when I was not present. And that was really hard. So that was the first blow. And then this entirely new thing that I've never, I'm not like a social media famous person. Like you kind of understand that, but I had never had that before. I'm friends with my friends on social media until this point. Like, I post a picture of a hamburger. They're like, that looks good or whatever, that's like the extent of my experience, in that world. And all of the sudden there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people saying, I mean, the fans of this show are so intense and they take it so personally. And they love this Bachelor so much, who I also liked, P.S. But they thought, that they made this, some people assumed that I was being fake, I think, because I'm very happy, and they kind of would play like weird music when I'm just being happy, like it was fake somehow, which is so hard to watch. I just want to be like, no, I am that way. That's how I am. But anyways, so all of these things, and people would just write, you're fake, you're, excuse my language, they would be like, you're a bitch. I got like almost death threats, like you shouldn't even live. They would call me fat, call me ugly. I mean, tear apart my body, like, your mom should have raised you better. You get off of here. Like I'm tired. Like horrible. I mean, so mean. And it was just so constant. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of strangers every day telling me I'm worthless, telling me I have no value, telling me I made a mistake, telling me I'm a liar, calling me fake, calling me ugly, calling me this, calling me that, saying they hate me. I mean, And you want to, I think of myself as a pretty, confident, happy person. And yet the onslaught was so just severe and unceasing that it was just, so finally I'm like, okay, I'm not going on social media anymore. But then I would be driving in the car and on my radio, it would be someone talking about like, Britt deceives the bachelor by blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I would just be screaming in my car. I'm like, that's not what happened. Oh my gosh. And then, I would go to the grocery store and I'd be checking out and it would be in the front page of a magazine, like a little picture of me like crying or something, and it was just so constant. There'd be articles online. I just couldn't get away from it. And I've never had to question, where does my value come from more than in those moments? Because I've generally been with people who know me, enjoy me, and get me, and see me for who I am. And there's not really a question as to like my intentions or mine with them. And so this was just a totally new experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say best thing, and yeah, then it kind of crumbled into a really painful thing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, incredible may not be the best word, but that you have this incredible experience and you walk away and you're like, sweet, and then it falls away from there. So use the word identity. You were talking about where you find your identity. How did you? I mean, when you and I met, you were not like. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, you weren't like freaking out about this in the same way that I would imagine you were before.
How do you have a lot of peace now? Yeah.
Yeah. What did that transition look like for you?
It's interesting. So again, like I told you from the beginning, I was like, I felt like I was supposed to do this. I just did. There was no question in my mind. My spirit was very much like resonating. Yes, do this. And so, yeah, when all this backlash came and I felt very unjustly, I felt wronged. I really did. I felt wronged by the world. At this point I was like, I'm just, wow, really, really, this didn't go right. Like the universe messed up here. This is, and through that, I really had to start asking the tough questions. And I don't know, it's easy to be happy, go lucky and feel confident when nothing's coming against you and you surround yourself with people that understand you and that isn't really challenged. Right. I mean, there are challenges, of course, just being a human, but these challenges were so significant that it really forced me basically like to my knees. I was just like on my face crying at night. I would crying on the way to work, crying on the way home from work. And it's in those moments that you have to really dig deep. And as I did, I was like, I just remember, and I prayed a lot about it, talked to a lot of people that I admire, and just the truth that I found in this in a way that I never had before was just that like my value is absolutely not connected to the way people interpret me, because people will always be human, right? Some other human judging me their truth is not necessarily true. Like their perception of me can be flawed. And I can't live my life trying to please people that I will never meet. I can't even live my life trying to please humans, right? Like I have to come back to like, do I feel like I'm living rightly? And the answer was yes, I do. I do feel like I was doing that with integrity. I can say I have peace within myself, like with the way that I carried myself through this. And so that just had to be enough. I was like, I have to believe what God says about me. I have to believe what my friends who know me say about me. And I can no longer hold on to this lie that I think most people have low level, like it's kind of on the down low, but everyone's kind of subscribing to this lie that like external validation means anything, because it truly can't, because that is just, you can chase after that your whole life and it's going to be futile, because people, their opinions are going to vacillate, right? One day you're cool, then you're not, then you do something awesome or you get famous and they love you, and that can't be what it's from. Like the confidence, the safety has to come from within, and like your identity cannot be tied to anything outside of you. And that was just something I never had to face before, because generally what was outside of me was positive. And so I could live with that. And I agreed with it and it was okay. And then suddenly when it became negative, I was like, oh, wait, I can't agree with this. I don't think I'm a liar. I don't think I'm a terrible person. I know what happened. So there has to be some something's not lining up. So like, where's the truest truth? And like, I just had to go on that journey. And so honestly, at this point, I'm really grateful, like super duper grateful.
Yeah. The incredible thing is that you got to walk out of that terrible experience having grown, having found your identity in, I would imagine, and I don't want to like speak this over you, but before you were on this show, you probably, even though you didn't have like a bunch of people saying terrible things about you, you may have been finding your identity more in other people than in what it should have been.
Absolutely.
And so it's almost as if like, sure, it was a crappy experience, but you got to come out of it with, a changed way of seeing the world.
Right, because you're not so forced to ask yourself, like, do I truly love and accept myself as having value, irregardless of what people say, if people aren't saying anything you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure people
that's a really good point.
It's just, you don't even know. You don't totally know how you feel about yourself, because generally people surround themselves with people that enjoy them. That's the human way, right? And it really just forced me to ask those questions. And then, once I kind of got back to that, it gave me this, all of these like really amazing truths about like where does confidence come from? Why is a person worthy or not worthy of love? Why is a person valuable? Why all of these things? And now I speak to young women about it. And it's like, I never would have been able to do that before. If I'm addicted to drugs or something, and someone who's never done a drug in their life walks in and says, oh, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. Let me tell you why you shouldn't do that. Here's the steps. I'm like, you don't relate. So your words mean nothing to me. And now I can fully walk into a room of young women who are like, I'm dealing with insecurity. I don't know where my value is. I don't feel good about myself. I don't like myself. I'm being bullied, all these things. And I can fully walk in that room and say, girl, I get it. And here's the deeper truth of what's going on. Here's what you can hang on to. And here's what you can totally let go. So that's been just a real blessing, obviously in disguise for sure. But
definitely.
But looking back, I would not do anything differently. I just think it's really beautiful how it's all worked out.
That's incredible. Okay. And so this happens. Yeah. You kind of come out, I would imagine this takes months to kind of understand all of this. And I would imagine you're constantly going. But then basically the Bachelor people, they reach back out to you. Is that right? And they're like, hey, you want to do another season? Is that what happens?
Yes, which is crazy. So people, everyone in my life is like, because I'm finally getting back on track, and I'm like, oh, wow, I actually, I'm loving myself in this deeper way, and I'm loving other people, and I have all this grace for people, and blah, 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 blah. Like, I feel like, my life has changed. And then they asked me to go back, and all my friends are like, okay, but you got the lesson. You got it. You don't have to go back, they love me, and they're like, we don't want to see you on your face crying again every day. That didn't feel like a good thing. Like, cool, you learned the lesson. You're doing good things. It's great. But just,
just stop. Cool.
You just stop out now. And again, Brandon, it's just that thing. I just felt in my spirit an inclination towards it. And, they had asked me to do Bachelor in Paradise, and I said no. Which is a totally different show. And so I was, because I'm always checking myself. I'm like, is it just that I want to be on TV? Is there some human selfishness involved in this? And, there wasn't, because I felt very strong no to this particular show. And then when they asked Bachelorette, I was like, I feel a strong yes. I have no idea why, because that seems so counter to anything that would make sense for self-protection, anything that would make sense, and so I did it. And again, it ended up kind of in rejection. And, it was embarrassing. I went on, and I don't know, just by way of explanation for people that don't watch the show, there was 2 bachelorettes this season, and the men chose. And so of course, in my mind, again, I'm like gotten back to this like happy, confident place where I'm like, okay, it's me and God and my friends, and we're all good, and I'm going on it and cool. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to do the whole season. And then, cut to 3 days later, I'm getting booted off in front of millions of people again. And I'm just like, okay, all right. Well, I got the lesson. What's happening now?
Yeah. Wait, so break down what happened. How did you get kicked off the show if you're like the Bachelorette? Like, how does that work?
It's insane. Okay, yeah, sorry, you didn't watch it. So
sorry.
No, it's actually good, because what you don't know, I'm sure a lot of people listening don't know. So every year they do one Bachelorette, and it's usually someone that's just liked from this season previous. But this year they're like, for ratings or whatever, they're like, we're going to do 2.
So there's 2 women from like past seasons.
Yes. So it's
Okay.
me and a girl that I actually really like. Her name is Caitlin. And I remember going into all these meetings and they were like, there's going to be two of you. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's so awkward, but it'll be kind of fun. And again, like, I'm still feeling this, yes, I'm supposed to do it. So I'm thinking it's going to turn out well. So I go in fully hopeful, fully like present, and this is going to work out great. Like, this is my chance to redeem myself. People are going to see the real version of me, all this stuff. And of course, I'm not thinking that this is a multi-million dollar show. They surely know who's going to complete the season. This is not like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, I'll just try to get along with these dudes and maybe they'll pick me if they like me or if it's supposed to be. Of course, they know who's winning. Like, they have to plan this months in advance. Like, all the dates are tailored to Caitlin. As I'm watching the season, I'm like, oh my gosh, Britt, you're so dumb that you didn't see that coming. But still, I didn't see it coming. And so the men vote. The men that they cast, so they know who they wanted. It's just, I don't know. I was not aware what was going on again, which I feel like also is better. I was able to be myself. I wasn't, there was no attitude because I just didn't know it was coming. So I was myself. Anyways, I basically, at the end of these first nights, well, it's one night on the show. It takes a couple nights to film. The votes are cast, and then the Chris Harrison, the show's, host, comes up and he's like, I'm sorry you're going home. And I just remember being like, what? Like, oh no, again. Oh, come on. Just kind of like, oh man. And so it was embarrassing. I had to call all my friends. I've packed my bags for 3 months. I'm like, well, I'm coming right back home, and they're voting on like who's wife material or not. So that's really hard. That's a hard pill to swallow. And now I'm able to look back and see a lot of other factors, and I have a lot of peace about it now. But in the moment, it's very embarrassing. And again, it's not rejection in private, and you get to go home to your friends and say, I feel sad. It's rejection on national television. You're blindsided in front of millions of people and you're in a dress and everyone says no to you and you go home and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel great. Anyways, okay, so that happened, and this will kind of transition into the next thing. So again, it goes from like me being really hopeful and yes, I'm supposed to do this, and then all of a sudden being just feeling devastated and like kind of slightly wronged again, just by the universe at large. Like, but why am I trying and being honest and showing up and being vulnerable, and you just kind of get smashed down again? And I was just like in the limo home, like, what the heck? Like, what the heck? I don't know. But again, just like the first time, there was like so much has come out of it that's good and that couldn't have happened in any other way. And looking back now, I see that put me on this platform where it's like, now I have this voice. Before, I was one of 30 women. And so I had people who were looking at me. But then being on this next season, it's like I got this giant platform, which is not really what I was seeking. It was kind of an embarrassing platform, and yet somehow the psychology of America fans is very odd, and like they didn't like me before, and then this second season, like just in the maybe hour or 3 or 5, whatever it is, that people saw me, they kind of got a better picture of who I was.
It kind of humanized you.
It humanized me, and then I think also just seeing me have real emotions, like people softened towards me, and it humanized me. And then there was no narration over me. It was just me speaking for myself. And so I feel like it in many ways allowed me to be myself. And then also I didn't have to go through all of the heartbreak of the season, which, I watched the full season, and I think I might've dodged a giant bullet there. And I'm very happy for Caitlin. She ended up with an amazing person. So I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to.
That's good.
And so she got the guy she was supposed to. And now I kind of have this platform where I have a voice, and I'm getting to talk about things that I really think are important.
Yeah, I love that. And okay, so on the show, I'm trying to remember how all of this worked. But I live in Nashville, and Brady, who is also on that same season of the show, lives in Nashville.
Yes.
And so you guys dated for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Off of the show. So
off of the show.
He left the show, came to my hotel room, and he was so sweet. He's like, I'm a Christian musician and all of these things, and he just is very, very kind and like I don't know, that's such a gentlemanly move. I was like, okay, I have to try this. This is such a sweet person. So we dated for about 2 months, and even that, that relationship also did not pan out. But I mean, we're still amazing friends. Like I love him to death. He's awesome, and I think he's single. Everyone on podcasts, Brittany Scoops. He's amazing. But even that didn't work out. But again, like I just feel like all these puzzle pieces are fitting together.
Yeah.
So Brady and I are dating. We're talking about The Bachelorette, and it didn't work out. But he's like, Britt, you have this massive platform now. You have, hundreds of thousands of people looking to you. What do you want to say? What do you want to do with this? And I just remember, like, in that moment, the first thing that popped in my mind was World Vision, who, I'll just explain a little bit who they are. They're a humanitarian organization.
They're one of the biggest in the world,
they're
right?
huge, and they're awesome. So I've been sponsoring with them for 6 or 7 years. I have 10 kids that I sponsor, and you get to, talk to them. Like I'm, corresponding with them, sending them things. They send me things. I get updates. It's like amazing.
And so your money goes to like getting them food, water, shelter, life stuff.
It's amazing. It's literally sorry, I'm going to do a little pitch because I just love what they do.
I'll let you. Go ahead.
Do it because it's amazing. So, and I've just been doing it for years. It's less than $40 a month, and it's food, it's water, it's education, and it's medical. So it's saving people, and it's not like some nameless, faceless, like I'm just throwing my money somewhere. You know exactly where your money's going, and you literally get to see these kids grow up. I've watched these kids grow up, some of them for like years and years. It's crazy, and it's just totally beautiful. I've been impacted by it forever. Anyway, so Brady's like, what do you want to do? Like, you have a voice. What do you want to say? And I'm like, do I want to make money selling tea or, fitness equipment or T-shirts or all of these things that, having a lot of...
When you have 100,000 followers, 200, 300, whatever you have, you can do whatever you want to do.
Right. And I was getting those offers, and I was like, but that doesn't feel like, I'm not going to go through all this and have that be what comes out of it. And I was just like, I've always wanted to work with World Vision. But that always felt kind of like they're this massive organization. They know what they're doing. Who am I? I'm nobody. And Brady goes, actually, my friends are like head of PR there, and I'm going to set you up a meeting. And I was like, oh, wait. That's really soon. Okay, hold on. I need to like marinate on this. And he's like, no, we're just going to do it. And I was like, okay.
I love it. He just got you the hookup.
It's totally, I'm really nervous because I just, I esteem them so much. It's like going to meet the president or something. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, all right. Are they going to approve me? Are they going to think I'm cool enough to like work with them? Whatever. So I go and meet with them, and long story short, I basically started speaking on their behalf, and we started doing these really cool things where I would go to these women's conferences. And so it would be in the South, these Southern women's shows. It would be thousands and thousands of women who, the demographic was just perfect because it was people that really cared about the show. So they were very aware of who I was. They want the inside scoop. So I would kind of do this Q&A, like, this is what really happened. What questions you have for me. Here's something you didn't know. Here's what was fun. Here's what was bad. Da, 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 da. And then I would make an appeal. And I would be like, also something that's really important to me is World Vision. These are the kids I sponsor, like, and this is how it works. Would you be interested? And then I would, do a meet and greet, and again, make an appeal. And it is so insane. But this crazy reality show has saved so many lives in so many countries. It's like amazing. It totally worked. It like totally worked. And I would always leave these conferences, and I would just be like, oh my God, who would have ever thought? I was like, the trajectory of my life has been so random and crazy and like, tumultuous over the past year. And yet, and the outcome is these women who are watching the show, looking for love, wanting to watch someone fall in love, who have these like tender hearts that are looking for something, are now moving that emotion into sponsorship, and they're literally saving lives. Like, I'm looking at these women that I never would have met otherwise. I'm getting to talk with them, pray with them, hug them. We're crying, and they're sponsoring kids in, Uganda, China. Like, it's absolutely crazy. And I just, looking back, I'm like, there's no other way that could have happened. And it just,
it flipped it upside down.
Really beautiful. It's like, I'm so grateful and just continually astonished that that's the way it all panned out. It just, you couldn't have seen it from the beginning. And looking back, I'm like, whoa, awesome. I don't know. It's good. It's really
That's
good.
incredible. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, dude. Me too. Me too.
I love that. Obviously, you're able to do that because you had millions of people watching you on TV. You had like this big platform. Like,
Right.
What would you advise to somebody who has 100 followers, who doesn't have a TV show? Like, what's like, besides like sponsoring a child, like, what's like a way that somebody can kind of like use their platform, that, like whatever that is, to kind of, to turn things upside down?
You know what I would say? Something that I learned through all of this is the power of a kind word and an encouraging word. Like, because I don't think that people really think it through, because I remember, so in the thick of it, right, when things were bad and people were being so cruel, I remember there would be, people that were strangers to me, and, I'd click on them and they have like 41 followers and they live in Missouri and I've never met them. And but I remember people who didn't know me would just say, I want you to know that I'm praying for you, or I think you're a good person and you don't deserve this, or it would be 2 sentences sometimes. And it would completely, bring me to tears. And so I started always posting things about it. And I was like, I don't think people are aware of how much it means to hear something good spoken over you. Because here's how I think about it. I all my friends in my life, I love them, but how often do I say it? Or like, I know that they're funny, or wow, you're really optimistic, or you're a real good problem solver, or, you really listen well, or I feel emotionally connected to you. You've really made an investment in that area, and that affects my life in a positive way. And I think that, and that's why I spend time with them. But how often do I tell them? And anytime that someone tells me, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. And it changes your life.
Yeah.
It literally changes the way that you view yourself and the way that you carry yourself. And then it empowers you to keep acting that way. And so since then, I've, in my normal, like, yes, I have a platform, and that's, there's a certain way that I'm able to talk to a lot of people, but I still talk to my real friends, and it's totally changed the way that I talk to them. I would say just exercise intentionality in speaking the good things that you know about your friends to their face, because it will change their life. And then they'll do it to somebody else. And that's a really small way the thing is, it seems so small and it might seem insignificant, but I do think that's what changes the world, right? Because I think there's so many voices saying, you look at, Instagram, whatever, Snapchat, everybody's beautiful. Everybody has giant boobs. Everyone's cooler than you. They have more money than you. They're doing more interesting things. They have cooler friends. Their tattoos are more awesome than yours. And that's the message that we're getting all the time. And the people that we're with, that we love, aren't cutting through that by opening their mouths and saying, no, this is what I see in you, though. As someone that knows you, I see something that is so much more awesome than that girl's car or whatever you're comparing yourself against. And I think that we think these things, and you might feel embarrassed or just not compelled, or, like it's uncalled for, or they must know that because I'm hanging out with them. But I've started doing it, and it's real, and it just is creating kind of this like environment of exchange where we're building each other up in a world that is kind of set to tear everyone down all the time.
That's amazing. And so that actually reminds me.
And sorry, one more thing. It feels good to do. Even if you're doing it selfishly, you will start feeling better if you start blessing people. If you start speaking good things over their life, you will feel better. Because another thing is, when you're always thinking about yourself and how can I self-improve and am I as good as this person, if you can shift the focus and say, like, Brandon, you know what I think is so cool about you? I love that you do a podcast that's trying to bring joy to the world. I love that you're engaging people. I love that you want people to be compelled by goodness instead of the yucky things of the world. Like that I love that you're bringing truth to people that you don't even know. That tells me something about your heart. That feels good for me to say that to you. Do you know what I mean? And it's creating this cycle of like
totally
just empowering each other.
Yeah.
And it feels so small, but dude, it's just, I don't know. It's been a total revelation to me, because there's something about letting it escape your lips that's different than just thinking.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you have no idea like how much power those words can hold. It reminds me of a few weeks ago on this same show. I interviewed this designer, Ruthie Lindsay. She's like a stylist. She's styled like for all these incredible brands. I'm sure you've even seen her stuff and don't even realize it. But she had this like terrible car accident, and she was bedridden for, basically years, kind of in this depression. But she was like living in this home, and she had made her home beautiful. And all of her friends were like, Ruthie, you were so good at this. And she had never heard anybody tell her that she was good at like making things beautiful. And now she's, now she's doing all this work for these top brands, top like nonprofits in the world. But if nobody had ever like spoken that over her, she wouldn't have realized that. And so by speaking kindly to people, by speaking these truths to people, you're not lying, you're not making up stuff. You're just finding a way to like tell these people the truth. By doing that, you have the opportunity to kind of speak something into existence. Like
exactly.
It's crazy.
And it's addressing a truth that people can't see about themselves. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's very hard, and it takes a lot of, I think, work to get to a place where, and a lot of times it's interesting that you say, like, talk about her having to go through something really hard. Usually it is through something very hard where you get to the point where you're like, okay, I love myself now because I had to. I couldn't just skate by because life got gnarly. And usually that is what it takes. But I feel like in the absence of that, a way to do that for someone else is just to speak truth over them, because there's so many voices in your head, like, and they're constant, right? And if someone else can slice through that with like a little bit of truth, like what better gift is there to give somebody? I love it. Anyways, so that's my little thing. And that's amazing. I do things like speaking, I'll go to like, college campuses or churches or whatever. And it's usually mostly young women. Men are invited too, but for some reason they don't care about the show as much. So, and also I just have like a heart for young women, because I do think the identity question is especially prevalent in that age group. I just like, they're totally given so many mixed messages. I'm just trying to cut through that a lot. And basically me standing in front of the room and saying, you have value. You're lovable. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be what the world says is beautiful. You, because you are a human being that lives on this planet, inherently have value, period. And it's like, they've never heard it before. They've never heard that before. No one's saying that to them. And it's heartbreaking. It's just like, that shouldn't be such a revelation, and yet it is. And every time I say it, they're like, it's the first time it's ever hit them, and then I'm sure it will take 100 more people saying it for it to totally sink in. But the economy of this world isn't saying that to young people, that they just have value because they are in existence. And so I think it's up to us to say that to one another.
Well, you're fantastic at that. And okay, so kind of a bragging point. You would never say this about yourself, but so you and we were in Jerusalem, like this is like a week and a half ago. And we basically co-hosted a meetup in Jerusalem. We're like, hey, come on out to like this street corner, which sounds super sketchy, but like meet us here. We'll like come hang out. It'll be fun.
Which I've never done that before. And I was like, these guys are so cool. I don't even know what this is.
It was great. And obviously you're a natural at it, because you had like, I had a few people come out and they were so cool. I loved them. But you had like 10 times as many, and they were like all of these like 19-year-old Jewish girls. And you hung out with them for like 3 hours, just like
awesome.
You were like truly happy, like genuine. It was so fun to see you just like caring for these people and like speaking like awesome like truth over them. And I don't know, that was so fun.
Thing. Exactly, because I'm like, okay, you think you're coming and you think I'm going to talk about the show? I was like, I'm going to talk about that I love you and that you're lovable, and I'm going to say that to you, and I'm going to talk about real things. And that is totally just one of the weirdest things I never saw coming out of this, is like how many times I've just been able to like really get on a real level with young women and be like, here are things that I wish I knew when I was 22.
That's cool.
I wish I knew what I could let go of and just like be okay and like love myself. And I didn't know that. And so I'm like, I'm going to tell you, whether it sinks in or not, I love you. Okay. So yeah, that was really fun. And thank you for setting that up, because I've never done that before.
Yeah, that was great.
In Jerusalem, which was even cooler.
Yeah, we'll have to do these all over the world.
Heck yeah. Deal.
I feel like we should just transition from here into like at the end of every show, I like to ask a few questions to everybody. And so question number 1 is
like, so no pressure, but try to do better than everybody else.
Yeah, you just got to school everybody.
You just got to be more interesting than everybody else's answers. Okay, cool. Bring them on. Ready.
How would you describe the kind of person that you most admire in the world?
I would say what is sexy to me in the way, like appealing, like what draws me into someone that is generous, someone that is happy for the well-being of others, like gets excited for other people's success. I think that's the deepest kind of confidence, if you can truly be happy for someone else. And then I think this sounds, I mean, I guess it is basic, but someone that is kind, that is intentionally speaking love and life over the people around them. Because that's not easy. It's easy to be selfish. It's natural to be selfish, and to be giving and kind is so attractive, man. It is so refreshing and attractive. So yeah. And I mean, I guess that's being generous. Maybe all the things I said are the same thing, but that's
I love
my
it.
answer. That's my answer.
You broke it down into bullet points.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you consuming right now? Like, is there a TV show or a movie, something that you're super excited about?
7-Eleven, it's delicious. TV wise, okay, I'm a total dork. So movies, I really like documentaries. Documentaries have been ruining me for movies lately because there's something so compelling about watching a human go through real emotions, because there's just so many shades that you could never act, right? Like you can be watching someone's face for a minute and they go, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm torn, I'm jealous, I'm this and da da da. No one can act that well. And it's just documentaries have completely ruined me for movies. Like specifically, I would say what I've been watching recently. Well, I watched Making a Murderer twice through.
You watched it twice?
That's like 30 hours or whatever, 20, I think. I love, or like The Jinx. I love law. I work at a law firm now, but I've loved law my whole life, especially criminal law. I just am fascinated by lawyers, the court system, the kind of chess game that is like lawmaking. I love. So I watch a lot of law documentaries, a lot of court cases. I'll literally watch depositions for like hours because I love.
You are such a dork. Oh my gosh.
I know. So I'll watch interview tapes and then the court cases and then interview with the prosecutor, interview with the defense counsel. Like it. Yeah, that's my like happy place.
I love that. What is that like? What's your thought process on that? So like, are you just doing it because you're like, oh, like this is like what do you take away from it? I guess is a better question.
These people are, number one, intellectually just total superheroes. It's so smart. Law is so complex, and the more you get into it, the more complex it is. So that's fascinating to me, just kind of the rules and this and that, and this can be excluded, and we can't use this, so we have to use this, and gathering evidence, all of that, all of the game of that, the preparation. I just have a lot of respect for those people being able to do it. Just, they're so intelligent. And I think deeper than that, it's just a sense of justice. I think these people are putting everything that they have. These people are functioning at such a high level, and they're doing it to bring justice, which is just, that's saving a life in a different way. You know what I mean? Some people don't have food, some people don't have water, and then some people don't have justice. And all of those needs are important. And I just think they're addressing a really basic human need, and they're fighting for someone that can't fight for themselves. And that's like so cool.
I love that.
So cool. Yeah. So in another life, I would be a lawyer.
Yeah, I was about to ask, is there any way that like that's your next career move?
Well, I'm kind of getting into it a little bit. Yeah. So right now I'm working for 2 prosecutors. And so I'm helping them, gather evidence, and I'm taking notes in court. And I'm like, you should say this in your final statement because that really, I can tell the jury reacted to that. And I love it, dude. I'm geeking out right now if you can't tell. But yeah, so that's in my mind. I don't know. I kind of have a lot of plates spinning. I don't know if I could do it, but yeah, I'm fascinated by it. That's cool. It's a pretty heavy hobby. We'll just call it that. It's not quite a career move, but I really like learning about it.
That's so fascinating. I love that.
So that's what all of my movies and YouTubing and documentaries all are kind of in that vein. That's cool. Just studying these people like crazy.
Last question. And you kind of already answered this, so feel free to say, dude, I've given you all I've got, or answer it differently. But based on the ways that you've like chosen to like live your life, what's a way that you would encourage someone else to live their own life differently? Sorry, like what's a change you'd encourage somebody to make in their own life?
I think if I had to make a change in the way that I lived my life growing up, if I could, let's say I could zoot back in time and give little Britt some advice. I think, honestly, and this sounds simple again, as all of these things do, but I would say I would encourage people to live with grace. Give themselves grace, that they don't have to be perfect, that they can make mistakes, that, they don't have to feel good all the time. They can have emotions. Just give yourself grace. And in the same measure, give grace to the people around you. Realize that they're making mistakes because they're human. Realize that they're going to hurt your feelings because they're human. And it's probably because they're hurting also. And I just feel like living life with that kind of softness is going to save people from a lot of pain. You know what I mean? I would just ask for grace. Just give myself like a break. Give others a break. And, life doesn't have to be so hard. If we're not struggling so hard to be perfect, we have a lot more grace to give other people who are imperfect. And I just think everything flows more easily, and you can be more in tune with yourself and what's actually going on. So yeah, grace. Keyword.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That's a fantastic way to finish out the podcast. If people want to follow along with your story, yes, and not say mean, terrible things to you on the internet.
You can now. At this point, I can handle it. Bring it on.
Where can they find you?
Okay, so I think the best way is I got to get into Snapchat and all these things. I got to take after you and get in that. But right now, I think Instagram is the best way. I have a website which is just brittnilsson.com, but that's linked to my Instagram. My Instagram is BrittKarolina. Britt Carolina. It's my middle name. It's like Carolina with a K. But yeah, Britt Carolina, and then it's not going to blow your mind, but you can keep up with what's going on in my life.
What are you saying? There's some of my photos in there.
That's true. There are some photos that will blow your mind, not taken by me. Photo cred to Brandon. So that would be cool. I'm getting into social media now. It's like my new endeavor. So
good.
It would be fun.
That's fun. Well, Thank you so much, Britt, for being on the show. This is so fun.
Dude, I totally enjoyed it. And just tell your wife I say hi, and you guys are awesome. And I love what you're doing. I think this is just something that is so refreshing. Shining light on good things. There's so much happening in the news and just, even going on Facebook, it's so much negative. I just love what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're a little ray of sunshine, my friend. It's really beautiful.
You. It's so fun. I'm just having a blast.
Yeah, and you're inviting other people into the blast, which that's what life's about. I think it's good.
Well, thank you. We'll keep in touch, and I'll have you on 100 more times.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds really good. Okay, perfect.
Cool. Awesome. I'll see you, Britt.
All right, bye.
Sounds Good with Brandon Harvey is part of the Gradient Podcast Network and is created in collaboration between me, Brandon Harvey, and Gradient. Find out more at Gradient.is. You can follow along with my story on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. My username is simply Brandon Harvey. That's Brandon with an E-N. And if you go to my website, brandonharvey.com, you can sign up for my weekly good newsletter, where I highlight 5 of the most hopeful things that happened in the world this past week. Make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts, and take a minute to write a review on iTunes. We're getting even closer to reaching 100 ratings. Do it. Seriously, do it. It really helps people find us. All right, and that's all for this week's podcast. See you next week when we get the opportunity to learn from another incredible person. Sound good?